My name is Haley Monroe. I'm 27. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What happens when the people you bled for pretend your sacrifices never existed? The room froze after Dad's words. Mom's smirk curved like a blade, slicing into the air, while my sister shifted in her chair, eyes glittering with smug victory. For years, I had carried them, rent, utilities, even the mortgage top-ups when Dad's pension fell short. Every paycheck I earned, I split. Every dream I shelved for them. And yet, here they were, erasing me in one sentence. My hands trembled, not with weakness, but with clarity. Their denial wasn't confusion. It was betrayal, deliberate and cruel. I glanced at the old photo on the wall. Me at 16, holding 2 jobs, still smiling. Back then, I thought love was measured by sacrifice. Now I knew better. In this family, love was measured by lies. Mom's voice snapped me back. Haley, stop exaggerating. Your sister has always been the responsible one. We never asked you for anything. I laughed, a sharp, broken sound that startled even me. Responsible? She couldn't balance a checkbook if her life depended on it. Yet here I was, painted as the selfish one. I locked eyes with my father. Every bank transfer, every receipt, I saved. If you really want to erase me, fine. But don't you dare erase the numbers. Don't erase the truth. Silence. The kind that weighs like thunder before a storm. My sister bit her lip, suddenly nervous. And in that silence, I realized the ledger of my life wasn't empty. It was full, overflowing with proof. They thought they buried me in denial. But numbers don't lie. And soon neither would I. The night I walked out of their house, I carried nothing but my purse and a flash drive. On it sat every transfer, every memo line, every single dollar I had funneled into their lives. $1,200 for the leaking roof, $800 for Mom's dental crown, $2,500 for Dad's emergency loan that was never repaid. Add it all up, almost $61,000 over 7 years. And now they claimed they never received a cent. I drove home with the steering wheel shaking beneath my grip. Betrayal has a strange sound. It isn't screaming or glass breaking. It's the quiet hum of tires on asphalt while you replay every memory and realize it was built on lies. By morning, my phone was buzzing. 50 missed calls, half from Dad, half from my sister. I ignored them all. Instead, I printed the bank statements, every one in crisp black ink, and laid them across my kitchen table. It looked less like family support and more like evidence in a courtroom. When Mom finally texted, her words dripped honey and poison. Haley, don't make this bigger than it is. We all know you struggle with exaggeration. Just let it go, for the family's sake. Exaggeration. My blood boiled. I wasn't exaggerating. I was exhausted. At work, I forced myself to smile through meetings, but the truth followed me everywhere. I remembered skipping vacations, skipping nights out, skipping the life my 20s should have been, all because my family's bills came first. And now I was painted as the liar. That evening, I called my bank manager. I need certified records. Full documentation. All the transfers to my parents' account. She hesitated. Are you filing something? I swallowed hard. Let's just say I'm preparing for the truth to come out. I stared at the stack of papers, the story of my life in black and white. My sister could smirk. My parents could chuckle. But soon, their laughter would choke on the weight of evidence. Because if they wanted to erase me, I would carve my name back into the ledger they couldn't deny. And this time, it wouldn't be silent. By the weekend, whispers had started circling in our extended family. My aunt called first, her voice tight. Haley, is it true you cut your parents off? After everything they did for you? I bit down hard on my lip. Their narrative was spreading faster than I could defend myself. Somehow, I had become the villain. Ungrateful daughter, selfish sister. The one who abandoned her family. Meanwhile, my sister basked in sympathy, telling anyone who would listen that she had carried the family on her back. But the numbers said otherwise. And soon, everyone would see. That night, I opened my laptop and created a folder. The Truth Project. Inside, I scanned the certified bank records, labeling each by date and purpose. Every $300 grocery top-up, every $400 temporary loan, every $5,000 emergency bailout. I paired each transfer with text messages where my parents had begged for help, their words dripping with urgency. "Please, Haley, your sister is busy. You know she can't handle money. Just this once." Just this once, repeated dozens of times. The more I compiled, the clearer the pattern became. I wasn't just helping. I was the lifeline. And lifelines, once severed, leave people gasping. Still, my chest ached. Part of me wished it wasn't true, that my parents hadn't chosen lies over loyalty, that they hadn't erased my sacrifices with one cruel chuckle. But denial was no longer an option. 2 days later, Dad showed up at my apartment door, gray-faced and sweating. He didn't ask to come in, he barged. "What are you trying to do, Haley? Ruin us? Embarrass us in front of everyone?" I held his gaze, calm but steady. "I'm not ruining you. I'm reminding you." He slammed his hand against the counter. "We told you. We never got that money." I slid the stack of certified statements across the table. His eyes dropped. His hand shook. For the first time, I saw fear flicker behind his anger. Because denial works until the paper trail walks into the room. And my trail had just arrived. Dad's hands trembled as he flipped through the stack. Every page was a mirror, reflecting back the truth he had sworn never existed. I watched his jaw clench, his breath grow shallow. He wasn't looking at numbers. He was looking at years of betrayal exposed in black ink. "Where did you get these?" he muttered. I almost laughed. "From the bank. From reality." "Where do you think?" For the first time in my life, my father, the man who always thundered over every room, seemed small. But before he could answer, my phone buzzed. A new message from my sister. "Careful, Haley. Some things are better left buried." Buried. The word sent a chill down my spine. She wasn't just covering lies. She was protecting something bigger. Something darker. I met Dad's eyes. "So that's the game? Pretend the money never existed, keep me the villain, while she hides behind your silence." He said nothing, only shoved the papers back toward me, like they burned his skin. "Don't bring this up again," he snapped, voice breaking. But it was already too late. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked circles around my living room, the glow of the city seeping through the blinds. Every text, every receipt, every sacrifice spun in my head. I had been their shield, their provider, their scapegoat. And when I stopped bleeding for them, they twisted the knife. I opened my laptop again. The Truth Project had grown. Now, I began drafting a letter, not for them, but for the people who had been fed their lies. Aunts, uncles, cousins, friends who had looked at me with judgment in their eyes. The letter began with 6 words. Numbers don't lie, but people do. By the time I signed my name, my pulse had steadied. I wasn't just fighting for acknowledgement. I was reclaiming my voice. And the louder I wrote, the quieter their lies became. Sunday dinner was supposed to be family time. Instead, it became my stage. I walked into my parents' house with a manila envelope tucked under my arm. My sister was already there, lounging on the couch, her smile sharp as glass. "Haley," she purred. "Finally decided to apologize?" I laid the envelope on the dining table and slid it across. Not an apology. Evidence. Mom frowned, but curiosity got the better of her. She pulled out the papers, certified transfers, receipts, messages begging for help. Her eyes darted across the lines, her face draining of color. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his chair. My sister, however, only rolled her eyes. "This doesn't prove anything," she scoffed. "Anyone can fake paperwork." I leaned in, my voice low but steady. "Then explain the matching withdrawals from your account the very next day. $700 here, $1,200 there. You were the one spending it, weren't you?" Her smirk faltered for just a second, enough for Mom to notice. The silence was thick, suffocating. For years, I had been their invisible lifeline, the daughter who gave without question. But now, the truth was laid bare, and my sister's polished facade was cracking. Dad tried to regain control. Haley, enough. This isn't the place. Isn't the place? I cut him off. This is exactly the place. Right here, at the same table where you compared me to her, where you said I'd never measure up. Well, guess what? I was the one holding this family together while she drained it dry. Mom's hands shook as she set the papers down. My sister glared daggers, her mask slipping into rage. And in that moment, I realized something chilling. They hadn't just denied me. They had conspired to rewrite history, to erase me from the narrative altogether. But numbers and courage have a way of burning through lies. And this fire had only just begun. The fallout began the next morning. By dawn, my inbox was flooding. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all forwarding the letter I had sent with the attachments. Some messages were awkward silence, others sharp with disbelief. But a few carried quiet apologies. We had no idea, Haley. Your sister always said she was the one paying. You deserved better. Each note cut and healed in equal measure. Meanwhile, my sister launched her counterattack. On social media, she painted me as unstable and obsessed with money. She posted smiling photos of mom and dad, captioned, "Family means love, not ledgers." The comments flooded with sympathy. But beneath the surface, doubt had been seeded. Because the documents were real, the numbers were undeniable. That afternoon, Dad called again. This time, his voice wasn't thunder, it was gravel. "Haley, what do you want from us?" I closed my eyes. What did I want? Not money, not repayment, just acknowledgement. The simple truth spoken aloud. I had given, and they had taken. But asking for truth from liars was like begging for water from stone. "I want you to stop pretending," I said softly. "That's all." There was silence on the line, broken only by his ragged breathing. Finally, he whispered, "You'll destroy this family." "No," I replied. "You already did when you erased me." That night, I lit a single candle in my apartment. The documents spread before me. The flicker illuminated every number, every sacrifice. My heart should have felt heavy. Instead, it felt light, as if every page was peeling their weight off my shoulders. I realized then, revenge wasn't about shattering them. It was about reclaiming myself. And once you've tasted freedom from lies, there's no going back to silence. Tomorrow, the world would hear the story in my voice, not theirs. And my sister's perfect mask? It was already crumbling. The invitation came disguised as a peace offering. "Family dinner. One last chance to talk this through," Mom's message read. I almost deleted it, but something inside me whispered, "Go." Not to reconcile, but to watch the truth fracture under its own weight. When I arrived, the house was too quiet. My sister was already seated at the table, arms crossed, a glass of wine in hand. Dad stared at his plate, unable to meet my eyes. Mom smiled, brittle and desperate. "We don't need to drag this out," my sister began. "Haley's making a fool of herself, sending letters, parading numbers around like they matter. Families aren't built on spreadsheets." I slid a small black binder across the table. Families aren't built on lies either. Inside were not only the certified records, but screenshots of her spending, the vacations she took, the luxury handbags she flaunted, all within days of my transfers. Mom's face drained of color. Dad finally looked up, eyes hollow. My sister's mask shattered. "You had no right," she hissed. "No right?" My voice rose, steady and sharp. "I had every right. Because while you were sipping champagne in Cabo, I was working double shifts to cover bills you swore you'd handle. While you posted filtered photos of hard work paying off, I was sending the money that made it possible." Silence thickened. Mom's hands trembled. Dad rubbed his temples like the truth was a migraine he couldn't bear. I leaned back, letting the binder sit like a live grenade between us. "I'm done explaining. You can deny me, but you can't deny the evidence. The world knows now. And sooner or later, you'll have to answer for it." My sister's lips curled into a snarl. But her eyes gave her away.
Fear.
Because she knew what I knew. Masks can only hold so long under the weight of truth. And hers was seconds from collapsing completely. The binder sat between us like a final verdict. No one touched it. No one dared. I stood, calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. You don't have to admit it, I said quietly. The numbers already have. My sister's mouth opened, but no sound came. Mom blinked rapidly, as if tears could wash away the ledger of truth. Dad just stared at the table, shoulders slumped under the weight of silence. For the first time, I realized I didn't need their words. Their denial wasn't my burden anymore. My proof had spoken louder than their lies ever could. I gathered the binder, slid it into my bag, and turned to the door. This isn't about destroying you, I said, pausing. It's about saving me. When I stepped outside, the air felt different, crisp, lighter, almost forgiving. The night sky stretched wide above me, and for once, it didn't feel like a ceiling pressing down. It felt like a horizon. The days that followed were strangely quiet. No more late-night calls demanding explanations. No more relatives judging me from the sidelines. One by one, people reached out not to accuse, but to listen. The truth had already started doing its quiet work, reshaping the story that had been twisted against me. And my sister? She went silent online. Her glossy posts vanished. Her curated image dissolved without a single word from me. Lies, after all, require constant feeding. But the truth, it survives on its own. One evening, I burned the last stack of receipts I hadn't filed. Watching the papers curl into ash, I finally let go. Not of the money, not of the years, but of the need for their recognition. They tried to erase me. They tried to bury me under denial. But I had written myself back into the story, not with their approval, but with my own resolve. And in the quiet crackle of flames, I understood. Freedom isn't them admitting what they did. Freedom is me walking forward without their permission. My parents left for the airport without me. 5 tickets. 2 rooms. 1 forgotten passenger.
Me.
I found the itinerary sitting warm on the printer tray, the ink still fresh. My name wasn't on it. I scrolled through the pages twice, thinking maybe it was a mistake. But no, 5 names.
Mom. Dad.
My brother. His girlfriend. Even my sister. All checked in. All confirmed. I texted Mom, fingers shaking. Where are you? Did you forget me? Her reply came back almost instantly. We thought you backed out. You've been so moody lately.
Moody.
That was her word for me when I didn't smile through their favoritism. When I stayed quiet while they praised my brother for things I'd worked twice as hard to do. When I dared to expect equal treatment. I didn't reply. Not to her. Not to anyone. But then my phone buzzed again, this time from my brother. A photo of a handwritten note he'd left for his friends. He's gonna flip when he sees the photos. So this wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate.
Planned.
My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 25 years old. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What happens when the family that tries to erase you suddenly realizes you were the one holding the strings all along? I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I opened the travel app on my phone, the same one I'd used to make the reservations. The €13,000 booking was still under my account, my credit card, my control. One tap. Cancel. At 6:30 a.m., my phone lit up like fireworks. 37 missed calls.
Dad. Mom.
My brother. I smiled in the quiet, sipping my coffee. Enjoy. By the time the sun broke through my blinds, my phone was still buzzing, vibrating across the nightstand like it was alive. Voicemail after voicemail, each one more frantic than the last. Dad's voice first, low and thunderous. Ethan, what did you do? Do you have any idea how much money this cost? Call me back immediately. Then Mom's, clipped and desperate. You've ruined everything. We're standing at the check-in counter, and they're telling us the booking is gone.
Gone.
Fix this now. I played my brother's last, and it was the one that made me laugh. His voice, smug but cracking at the edges. This isn't funny. You're gonna regret this. Just fix it before Dad loses it. Regret. That was the word he always threw at me when I refused to cover his gas money, when I wouldn't help with his assignments, when I told him no. Now he finally tasted it. While they raged at the airport, I poured myself another cup of coffee, flipped on the TV, and stretched across the couch. For once, I wasn't the forgotten passenger. I was the one steering the trip. And what they didn't know, canceling was only the first step. Because with one click, the refund, every cent of that 13,000 euros, was heading back into my account.
My card.
My control. By 9 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A text from Dad. We're stranded. This is humiliating. If you don't fix this right now, don't bother coming back home. I stared at the words, a slow grin spreading across my face. Don't bother coming back home?
Perfect.
That was exactly the plan. By noon, the flood of calls slowed into silence. I imagined them slumped at the airport, luggage piled around them, whispering excuses to angry staff. My brother's girlfriend probably scrolling her phone, regretting ever tagging along. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. Because here was the truth. The trip had been my idea. I was the one who found the package, the resort, the flights. I was the one who booked it all, on my credit card because Dad insisted it'll build credit, son. Don't worry, we'll pay you back. But somehow, by the time the tickets were printed, I wasn't a passenger anymore. I was just the bank. For weeks, I told myself maybe they'd surprise me. Maybe they planned to add my name later, that they just forgot to print my boarding pass. But that note my brother left, he's gonna flip when he sees the photos. That erased any illusion. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd erased me on purpose. So yes, I canceled it. And yes, I took back the refund. 13,000 euros, mine again. That afternoon, Mom tried once more. Her text was short, trembling. Ethan, we'll talk when we get home. Just please don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. The fear in her words said it all. Dad's reputation was built on generosity, on being the provider, the man who took his family on lavish trips. What would people say when they learned it had all been me? I typed back one word. Enjoy. Because the photos they planned to take, the ones meant to mock me, would never exist. And the story they thought they controlled was already slipping out of their hands. By the next morning, the whispers had already begun. My cousin texted first. Your dad said there was a mix-up with the airline. But Uncle Joe swears he overheard your mom saying you canceled the whole trip. What's going on? Then came another. Wait, weren't you the one who booked everything? People are saying you paid for it. The truth was seeping out, faster than they could contain it. And the more they scrambled to spin their story, the more obvious it became. I didn't post, didn't rant, didn't share screenshots. Not yet. All I did was let a few family members connect the dots. A quiet nod here, a short reply there. Yeah, the trip was on my card. Yeah, I saw the itinerary. My name wasn't there. That was enough. By noon, Dad called again, his voice tight with fury. Ethan, listen to me carefully. You will tell them it was a mistake. You'll say you panicked and canceled by accident. Do you hear me? If you embarrass me over this. I cut him off. Embarrass you? You left me behind, Dad. 5 tickets, and not one had my name.
You weren't planning to take me. You were planning to humiliate me.
The only embarrassment here is yours. For once, he had no comeback. Just silence. I hung up before he could recover. My hands steady, my chest lighter than it had felt in years. Because for the first time, I wasn't the forgotten son, the overlooked passenger, the quiet shadow. I was the one pulling the strings, and he knew it. And the real fallout hadn't even started. By the weekend, the story had spread beyond whispers. At Sunday lunch, Grandma called me herself. Her voice was calm, but edged with disappointment. Ethan, tell me the truth. Did you really pay for that trip? And did they really leave you behind? I swallowed hard. Yes, Grandma. Every cent came from my account. And yes, they printed the tickets without me. 5 seats, not 6. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. I always suspected your father leaned on you too much. But this is cruel. By evening, my phone buzzed with more messages. A cousin wrote, "Your dad looked like a fool at church. Everyone asked why you weren't with them. He said you had work." Nobody believed him. Another friend of the family posted a cryptic status online. "Funny how some parents forget which kid holds the receipts." The cracks in Dad's image weren't cracks anymore. They were fissures. Meanwhile, Mom's tone shifted again. Her text at midnight, "Ethan, please stop talking to people. You're making it worse. We'll pay you back, just don't ruin us." But I hadn't ruined them. I'd only told the truth. The ruin was theirs, and now, the mask they wore for years was slipping in front of everyone. Sitting on my couch, I looked at the refund notice on my banking app. 13,000 euros, safe and secure in my account. The money they thought they'd enjoy without me was now fueling something else, my freedom. Because this wasn't just about payback. It was about finally breaking free from a family that saw me as nothing but a wallet and a servant. And the best part? I hadn't even shown my full proof yet. The following week, Dad's calls turned from threats to bargaining. "Ethan," he said in one voicemail, his voice lower than I'd ever heard it. "We'll work this out. Just stop talking to people. You don't understand the damage you're causing." The damage I was causing. As if it hadn't been his betrayal that started it all. Meanwhile, my brother's smugness had vanished. He texted late one night. "You didn't have to go this far. People are dragging me online. Some of my friends saw the note I left. How did that even get out?" I smirked at the screen. I hadn't shared it. But all it took was one cousin snapping a photo when I showed them, and suddenly the joke was making its rounds. His words, "He's gonna flip when he sees the photos," had become a punchline. And he was the joke. Mom tried one last angle. "Think about family, Ethan. Think about how you'll feel when we're gone. Do you really want things to end like this?" I stared at her message before typing back. "You ended it when you left me off the tickets." But while they spiraled, I was building. The refund wasn't just sitting in my account. I'd already put part of it down on something they never expected, a small loft of my own. Papers signed, deposit made. A home free of their control. And when I finally moved in, the silence of my own space felt like thunder. They thought they'd left me behind. But really, I'd moved forward. And soon everyone would know it. By February, their carefully polished story had shattered. At family gatherings, people no longer asked why I hadn't gone on the trip. They asked why my name wasn't even on the tickets I had paid for. Dad tried to insist it was a mistake, but the cousins weren't buying it. "Strange mistake," one had said, "considering it cost 13,000 euros. The final blow came when Grandma spoke up. My cousin relayed it to me word for word. "If Ethan hadn't canceled, you would have happily gone without him." That's the truth, isn't it? Dad didn't answer. He just got up and left the room. Meanwhile, I was settling into my new loft. My own furniture. My own keys. My name alone on the lease. For once, I wasn't an afterthought. I was building something that belonged only to me. But I wasn't done. One Saturday, I posted a single photo online. The view from my loft's balcony, sunlight streaming across the city. Caption: "Funny how being left behind can lead you exactly where you belong." No names. No accusations. But everyone knew. The comments poured in. Support. Admiration. Subtle digs at my parents. My brother even tried commenting, "Don't believe everything you read." But it backfired instantly. People flooded the thread with questions he couldn't answer. That night, Dad called again, his voice hollow. "Ethan, what do you want? Money? An apology? Just tell me what it'll take to stop." For years, I'd begged for scraps of acknowledgement. Now he was the one begging. And I realized I didn't want anything from him anymore. They had taken me for granted. I had taken back everything. Spring sunlight spilled through my loft's windows as I brewed coffee in my own kitchen, the quiet hum of peace wrapping around me. No shouting, no guilt, no being treated like luggage that could be left behind. Just silence and freedom. Meanwhile, their world had shrunk. Word had traveled through the family and beyond. The lavish Christmas trip that collapsed, the truth that it had been booked on my card, the revelation that they had deliberately excluded me. Their friends pulled away, neighbors whispered, even coworkers avoided their table in the break room. The photos they had planned to flaunt never existed. Instead, the only story people remembered was how they stranded their own son. One last letter came in the mail, Dad's handwriting jagged and rushed. We went too far.
I see that now.
But did you have to ruin us completely? I read it once, then folded it neatly and slid it into a drawer. Not to revisit, but to remind myself of one truth. I hadn't ruined them. They'd ruined themselves the moment they thought I was disposable. That evening, I invited a few close friends over. We ate takeout on the floor, laughing until the city lights blinked on outside. For once, I felt whole, not because of what I had taken back from my family, but because of what I had built for myself. As I stood on the balcony later, I whispered into the night, "They left me behind, and it was the best gift they ever gave me." Because poetic justice wasn't revenge. It was this, a life on my own terms, free, steady, untouchable. They had tried to erase me. Instead, I walked away unforgettable.